This is the Art Beauty Podcast where we tell the real truth about the fake shit. Hi, everybody. I'm Amber. Today, my fabulous co-host is friend of the show, Jennifer Hanway. She is a board-certified holistic nutritionist and just my go-to expert on pretty much everything these days, I feel like. Welcome, babe. It's good to see you.
Back at you. I feel like we should publish our text messages sometimes of all the juicy stuff that we get to chat about.
It is so great. And I got to say, you are just such a fan favorite. I know everybody listening just loves your advice. I just can't get enough of it. And today we've got a really cool topic that we're talking about. I feel like that I've seen really trend on my podcast, and it's this idea of biohacking. For people who might not be familiar, and we're going to be talking specifically about biohacking devices that you use and love. So before we get into sort of the fun tech gear, can you explain to everybody a little bit what biohacking is?
Yeah, so there's no definition, there's no Wikipedia definition, but really what we're thinking about when we're thinking about biohacking is tools and devices that can help optimize our health to facilitate a specific response or a specific change in the body. So it's not supplements, products, skincare. It's like that next level, and it's that technology and those tools.
Okay, cool. So, in terms of the tools and the gear that you're liking, because I know now there's these giant conferences, like everybody's talking about biohacking, and it's interesting that you're saying it's not the supplements, it's not this, because we've had some people on there who say that, you know, by doing anything where you're changing your biology is technically biohacking, but you kind of disagree with that?
Exactly. I mean, you can think about the term, okay, so bio relating to our body, to our biology. The term hacking actually means using something for a different purpose than it was originally intended.
Oh,
That's
okay.
what a hack actually is. But I don't see that so much in the biohacking space. So yes, you can think of supplements, even tweaking your nutrition, doing something like fasting. All of those things could be considered biohacking. For me, I always think it's that next level of, all right, what is it that we can add into our daily routine that might involve a piece of tech or just something a little bit different?
I love that. Okay, so let's get right into it because you've got 5 devices that you are that I find are very fascinating. So why don't you I'm going to let you spill the tea. Go right ahead.
Right. So my first one, and it's on my desk here. This is, oh, it's not plugged in, but this is a daylight light. So what this does is this gives us the same type of rays that we would get from normal sunshine. So you're based in New York, I'm based in Boston. When was the last time we saw the sun?
I mean, I make it a point in either like late January, February to always do a vacation somewhere because I am somebody who gets seasonal affective disorder. The sun not being outside, not having the light, I get very just depressed. So so for me, I saw the sun not so long ago, but I will tell you, recently I've been really kind of like how quickly that optimism goes away, and I've just been kind of like mopey dopey because I realized the other day, I'm like, I'm not outside.
We need it for our souls. And even right now, even on the East Coast, I mean, we've been relatively lucky with the weather, touch wood, but I can't think in the last couple of weeks when we last saw the sunshine.
Did you just say touch wood? Is that a
Yeah.
saying?
Is
I've
that
never
not
heard that.
You know what? 10 years in the US. Yeah.
Touch wood. That's great. Is that like, you know, like something lucky?
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. Thank you for that. Okay, great.
The
things we learn here. Okay, so I'm going to just like touch wood every single day.
Right.
But you're right. So we have been lucky. We, you know, it was a fairly mild winter, but still too cold to be like outside doing your like walks.
Yeah.
Enjoyably.
And the sunshine, it's good for two things. As you say, it's good for mental health. Seasonal affective disorder is real. It affects so many people. But I think even if you haven't been diagnosed with seasonal affective disorder, we still know that sunshine is good for our soul.
Right.
And the other part is it's good for something called circadian rhythm. So circadian rhythm governs your sleep-wake cycle, your energy, when you feel energized in the morning, when you feel sleepy in the evening. And if we're not getting that daylight or we're stuck in our offices, we're not going to be able to regulate our circadian rhythm, which is the regulation of everything, including our hormones. So I have a daylight lamp on my desk, When I wake up in the morning, I pop it on for a little while, maybe half an hour. You can
Okay.
also do the same with an alarm clock. So you can get daylight alarm clocks that wake you up naturally with that natural light. And it's just on my desk. I have it on for half an hour in the morning, when we would normally be finding that sunlight. And
Right.
it can just help with mood and mental cognition and your energy levels. And for me, with biohacking devices, I want things that are just going to be easy and I can incorporate into my life.
Amen to that, sister. I mean, when you get some of these devices that are just like super complicated, you
Mhm.
basically need to be like a neurosurgeon to operate them. No interest. Interesting thing about that. So you're only leaving this on for a half hour day. So this isn't something that you need to leave on from roughly like 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Okay.
No, I pop mine on first thing in the morning. Maybe if it's like a really dark day and I haven't got any daylight and I've got to push through in the afternoon, I might pop it on for a little bit after lunch. So think of it almost as like a better for you coffee.
Sure.
So what it's going to do, it just gives you that little boost. As humans, we are meant to be energized when the sun is out.
So I am so relating to this now. First of all, I'm not ever giving up my morning cup of Joe times two. Just not
Yeah.
going to happen. But I have been trying to propagate plants, and it's the worst time to do it. I started in February because one of my plants was not doing well. I needed to cut it, trim it. I don't want to digress too much. The propagation was not going well. I bought a daylight lamp for my plants, a grow light, and they have been doing so incredibly well. No change in the environment other than the fact that I run this lamp for them. So, they're kind of feeling like it's spring because they're getting that light that they need from, and
Exactly.
I keep it on for them like 8 to 8. I'm really,
Good for
they're
your
doing great
babies.
though. I'm like,
So
here you go,
exactly.
babies. So yeah,
Yeah.
so we know that light is really important for life.
Exactly. So, and what I love for me, all of these tools and gadgets, they have to fit into my everyday life. I love to do something that can benefit my health while I'm doing something else. So this doesn't mean that I have to step away from my desk and sit in front of it for hours or do anything. I can just pop it on my desk when I need a little boost, and I really think it's a game changer.
And I'm going to make sure that I take all of your links because I also know that you've got some interesting promotions with some of these brands. So I'm going to make
Yeah.
sure to put those into the show notes.
Yes.
So if you want to see the specific ones that Jennifer's using, I'll make sure to include that. Okay, what's the next thing on your
Okay. So the
list?
next one is this guy here. This is an aura ring. Now, mine is the ugly version.
Okay,
You can get them that look like better jewelry, but I have such small hands that I had to get the most fitted one.
okay. Let me see. Can
So,
you put up close?
so yeah, it's
Yeah, I don't think it's
not very
ugly, but I
attractive.
know now they really look like just kind of like a gold ring
They
or
look like, I
silver
mean,
ring.
they have one that has a collaboration with Gucci. I mean, if they're listening, I'd be happy
Oh,
to wear that one for you. Yes, if you have, I think it's about $2,000.
yeah,
If you want to drop the big bucks on one. But this is most people would consider this a tracking device.
right.
So it tracks my sleep, it tracks my workouts, it tracks my body temperature, it tracks my heart rate variability, it tracks my beats per minute, my heart rate. And I went back and forth and back and forth on trackers until I used a good one.
Right.
And my thing with any tracking device, and we'll talk about this when we talk about continuous blood glucose monitors as well, they're only helpful if they facilitate behavior change.
Right.
So we would call it in the UK, and here's another one for you, all the gear and no idea.
I mean, yeah. I mean, and I know exactly what that means because I feel like used to have a closet for every one of these things that I would pick up, and I'd be like, I'm going to buy all this stuff. So I'm going to buy boxing gloves and boxing wraps, and then it'd be like 2 weeks later, it just sits in a
You haven't used
closet.
them either.
So
Exactly. So my thing is only track something if you are willing to change it, because tracking
right,
doesn't change. Tracking doesn't
right.
make any benefits. But if you're willing to change something, if that data gives you that impetus, which for a lot of people it does, then I think it's really helpful. So for me, it was really helpful in the things that my step count, for example,
Right.
now there's 10,000 steps. It's a bit of an arbitrary number. It's not really based in any kind of health, but it shows us how much we're moving our bodies.
Yes. In New York, so I have an Apple Watch. Now, I will say I've heard amazing things about the Aura Ring. I have not yet taken the plunge because they're not inexpensive.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love about the Aura Ring though is I don't wear my watch at night. I know you can, but like, yeah, right. That's when I'm charging it, and I don't want that cumbersome thing on my
Mm,
wrist. With the ring, it's very, I wear my wedding rings at
yeah.
night, so it seems like a way more user friendly
Once you've worn
type
it
of
for like a
tracker.
week,
You're
you
fine.
kind of feel weird when you're not wearing it.
Okay,
Now, just like anything, it's not going to be 100% accurate,
sure.
but we want to look at trends. So we want to
Yes,
look, how is my sleep improving? How is my resting heart rate? How is my heart rate variability? So it helps us identify trends.
great.
And then it also helps us to know how ready we are the next day.
Oh, what does that mean?
So what that means is it looks at our sleep, so it's going to track our sleep, and we'll know whether we've had that deep sleep, that REM sleep, how restful we were in our sleep, are we tossing and turning, but also by tracking our resting heart rate and our heart rate variability. Those are two measurements that show us how well our body deals with stress,
Mm,
how resilient we are, and then how well we can deal with stress the next day. So if you've had a really great night's sleep and your heart rate variability is higher or high, and your resting blood rate, your resting heart rate is low, you're good. You're good to go. You can go and push it in that workout. However, if your resting heart rate is a little bit higher, your body temperature is a little bit higher, and your heart rate variability is lower, this is when your body might be under a little bit more stress. And it might be just like, let's just skip the Peloton and go for a walk.
wow, interesting. So this kind of can give you some insight because sometimes I'm like, just push it through. We've talked about exercise so much on this, and
Yeah,
there are days when you're just like, I don't want to do this, but I
right.
I get in there and I do my weights. But interesting, there might be days where you're like, let's take it a little easier because like
Yes.
physically we're just not up to the task.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Okay. Interesting. Very
Yeah.
interesting. The new beauty editors love this device. And I know there's been many iterations of it.
Yeah.
But it's one of the ones that I'm still on the fence about, but I'm gearing more towards the yes, just because I love having that data.
It's so helpful, especially if you're that person that tries to push through.
Yeah.
And obviously, again, it's just a guide. For example, you might sleep badly one night, but you wake up in the morning and you still feel great. Go for it.
Right.
But it just gives us that little bit more data. And for me, my diet's dialed in, that's my job. My fitness is dialed in, that's my job. I'm pretty good at sleeping, just like most of us. My stress management is really challenging.
Mm,
So for me, the variable that I was trying to change on there, the number that I was trying to change is my heart rate variability, or HRV. And that is a measurement of how well our body responds to stress,
mm.
how
Okay.
resilient we are. Watch out, 2023 buzzword is going to be resilience.
Oh, I like this.
Sure of it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So because we all know that we have stress in our lives.
Yes, we do.
And we
Absolutely.
can't take away the stress, but what can we do to mitigate that stress and help our body manage it? So we're going to be seeing a lot more devices that help regulate our nervous system. So that'll be
Okay.
the next thing that we'll be talking about. But heart rate variability, the higher it is, the better your body is able to deal with stress.
Oh, nice. And I'm glad you explained that to us. I would have thought that a high HRV would be like not a good sign, but this is good.
This is good. Yeah. So you want the lower your resting heart rate, the more healthy you are.
Right.
I'd like to say I'm actually in the athlete category for my age. Just wanted to say a bit proud of
Nice.
myself on that one.
Yes.
But heart rate variability, you want more heart rate variability.
Okay.
So
Okay. So this is a great device. And I love that you said before, we're going to be looking at trends. It's not an exact science.
mhm.
But certainly going back to my Apple Watch, some days it'll be like you walked 20,000 steps. And then there are days where it's like you walked 1,000 and I'm like, oh dear God, get
Right.
up. And at least it's
Oh, you
buzzing at
still
me
do
like
them.
every couple hours to stand up. So yes, using these devices is important, as you said, if you're going to use it to make a change. What's third on your list?
Okay, so we were talking about tracking.
Yeah.
Now we've talked about external, we've talked about wearables. Now, the next one we'll talk about is the continuous blood glucose monitor.
This is so freaking cool. Okay. Yes. Yeah. I was looking into this. This seems really cool.
So this is when we're talking about accuracy,
Yeah.
this is pretty accurate. Now, When I work with my clients, we do a ton of lab testing because I always say, test, don't guess. Your blood doesn't lie.
Right.
So what a continuous blood glucose monitor does, or you'll see them called CGMs, is that they actually insert a sensor into your skin. Sounds painful, it's really not.
Right.
And that is constantly monitoring your blood glucose or your blood sugar. And so it feedback. So you insert it into your arm, it's not painful at all. And it's tiny, it's about this
Right.
big. Then you put a little patch over it. If you've ever had that kind of kinesiology tape, it's one of those patches, goes over the arm. Once it's on there, you don't really think about it.
Right.
What it does is there's a tiny sensor, and it's like a hair thin filament that goes into the bloodstream. That is constantly measuring your blood sugar levels, sending the data to an app on your phone, and that can tell you how your body is responding to the food you eat, to the exercise that you're doing, and even your stress levels.
Now, this is probably based on, I'm going to make a giant assumption here. But and since you mentioned Peloton before, people who are familiar with Peloton, people who know Robin, they've seen her wear that device. That is a glucose tracking device, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, because she's diabetic. Why I'm bringing that up is essentially that this is safe technology, and it is proven technology because it's used for
100%.
people whose lives depend on this type of a tracker.
Exactly. So that's how it was. It was developed for type 1 diabetics. So they didn't have to keep doing the finger prick every morning to measure their insulin levels. What has now happened is that the FDA has now approved this for consumer technology.
Right.
So these have been around for a long, long time.
Okay.
And it's not, the other thing is, it's not putting anything into your body. It's just measuring something. There's nothing else involved there. So this is very safe technology that's been around for such a long time. And now it's moving more into the consumer market, so people can use it to measure their blood sugar level. And we know, we've heard so much about blood sugar balance over the last few years. We know how important blood sugar balance is for so many parts of our lives. And this is a great way to find out what is spiking your blood sugar, because yes, we know it's added sugar and pastries and alcohol and wine and all of those things, but you and I might respond very differently to a sweet potato or a piece of pizza.
Right. Also, you know what? There's also sneaky, we've talked about this before, but there's sneaky sugars that they put in things that are seemingly healthy, right? I got a collagen supplement. And when I looked at it, I was like, wow, there's a lot of sugar in here, something that is supposed to be good, that I immediately threw in the trash.
I mean, let's talk about that another time, because collagen supplements with sugar, sugar destroys the collagen in your skin.
Yeah. So you're just, why are you doing that?
So why would you put sugar in collagen?
Yeah. It's so silly.
Right.
I know. But but it's good to, when we're talking about these devices too, it can be really helpful if you are somebody who's tuned into your health to kind of, for accountability of some of these things that we're doing and taking.
100%. And also just how your body responds. So we obviously know what foods are going to spike our blood sugar, but because of our different physiology, you might respond very differently to something that I respond to. I think also positive feedback is really great as well. I know the science behind food. I know the science behind what food does to our bloodstream, but actually being able to see that in real life is super helpful.
Right.
I love seeing my blood sugar go down after I've worked out, because we know, again, it's just positive reinforcement. The thing that I found fascinating is how my blood sugar spikes when I get stressed.
Wow. Okay.
So scientifically, I know that this happens. I know the mechanism behind it, but to see it happen, and it happens like that, it's so, so quick, because it's a fight or flight response. So when we are stressed out, our body releases glucose to give us quick fuel.
Yeah.
Now, that's great if you're running, fighting a saber-toothed tiger, if you're just checking an email. But I would look back at my blood sugar knowing exactly what I'd eat, and I'd see these spikes, and I'd be like, what was that? And I was like, oh, that's when this thing happened. That's when that thing happened. So that was such a takeaway for me of blood sugar and stress.
Now, this is something that so the Aura Ring is interesting, but I got to tell you, when I was looking into this, is by Signos, right?
This one, yeah. So there's a number of companies in the US. The one I use is by Signos. Yeah.
I was like, this to me is where I think I might do my investment, because diabetes also runs in my family. So my father
Mm.
was pre-diabetic at a person. I've never had any blood sugar issues, but it's really good to kind of be on top of that sort of a
It's
thing.
exactly, and you don't have to wear it all of the time.
Okay.
Wear it for a month, find your trends,
Right,
find
right,
what
right.
works for you. Yeah, so it doesn't have to be all of the time.
Great. Okay. All right. Loving this. And then of course, they have I feel like when I was looking on, people are using this for weight loss
Yeah.
management. Certainly as you said, it's a good indicator of your stress.
Mhm.
Um so many benefits here.
But also with, I mean, high blood sugar doesn't necessarily have to be for just weight loss or just I mean, metabolism is such a broad term, and we think it purely in
Right.
terms of calories in, calories out. But also when we have, we could be a normal healthy weight and still have dysregulated blood sugar.
Right.
And these things don't just affect our metabolism, it affects our mood, it affects our mental health, it affects our aging, inflammation, skin aging. So there's a lot more to blood sugar balance than just weight loss.
Got it. Okay. So we have, I believe, two more
Two
devices that you
more.
have. Okay, tell
Yes.
me.
All right. Now this is where they get fun. So I brought one with me. One of the other ones is a little bit too big, but this beautiful contraption, I won't turn
Yes.
it on, but this is my LED red light mask. And this is something that
Yes.
you and I have talked about before as well, because there are so many devices available for skincare. And
Yes.
you and I have been back and forth, like, what do we like? What do we think is worth spending our money on? What isn't? And I honestly think I've had one of these for a couple of years now. And I think red light LED masks are game changers for at-home
Game
skincare.
changers.
Yeah.
We did an entire podcast on that, about the benefits. So if you haven't heard that, I highly suggest you do. We also talk about some of the different devices and really more in a broad spectrum of what you want to look for in a device, the things that, are kind of signals that maybe it's not the best device out in there. But I will tell you, I was doing red light this morning. It's something you need to do consistently, but
Yeah.
I've really incorporated it because it's not a giant, massive trend, but
Yep.
there's just a difference. I can just, I feel like I've got, my skin looks better.
Yeah. I think it's short term and long term. So I see
Right.
it in the short term, but I also see it in the long term as well.
Okay.
So clarity, glow, just general youthfulness.
Yes.
If I don't use it, I see a difference. And my friends will always be like, all right, what's the realness behind all of these things? And I say to them, if you're going to spend money on anything, any tool, it's the red light mask.
The red light mask. I'm in agreement. It's the one thing that I do religiously. I've
Yeah,
incorporated, and it's religious. Okay, so you like the higher dose one.
I
Um
like the
and
iodose one.
and I gotta say too, the one that I'm using right now is the DPL2A. You have to hold it like a book. Very powerful lights. It has
Mhm.
3-minute. So we talked about this in the podcast. I don't want to go too much into this because you can listen to that one. I spoke with a doctor who is not affiliated with any brand, but she thought that, the 15-minute range is really what you need to get to.
Mhm.
DPL says, nope, 3-minute treatments throughout the day works. Sometimes I just do it for 3 minutes because I can sit for 3 minutes and do anything for 3 minutes. And I'm telling
Yeah,
you, I do notice a difference when I'm doing it.
yeah.
So, but I
I do
think that,
this 10
yeah,
minutes
10
whilst
minutes.
and I meditate at the same time.
And those are so easy too. I have a version of that where you can strap it on as well.
Yeah,
It does make it so easy.
yeah.
The issue for me is when I have the one that straps on, I want to open my eyes and like,
Okay.
it's safe.
You probably don't want to do it for a long time.
No.
Yeah,
So, okay. So pick your poison, but we are both in agreement. The red light is
it's
worth
the
it.
one. Yeah.
And then the last thing.
And then the last one is the infrared sauna blanket.
Yeah.
So
You
again,
have talked about this before. Yeah.
mine's from Higher Dose, but there are a number of brands out there. This is, so I used to do pre-pandemic, I used to go out and do my SLT workouts, and then I would go a few doors down, and then I would do an infrared sauna. And I love it. I have had higher heavy metal levels in the past. So that's one of the reasons why I did infrared saunas. Infrared saunas have so many benefits, but they can
Oh,
be really helpful for heavy metal detoxification.
wow. Okay. I thought it was just kind of like a feel good sort of
All of
which
those
it
things,
does. Yeah.
but it does. But yeah, but infrared saunas do have some benefits for helping your body naturally detoxify heavy metals.
Wow. Okay. And you've actually, because I know that you know your blood, so you've seen a difference at this.
Yeah, so I tested mine a long time, and we're not talking about mercury poisoning. That's a whole different thing.
Right.
But just higher levels of heavy metals. And honestly, we see this when we do the work with Dr. Isak in the clinic there. We see this in 99% of our patients have heavy metals because of environmental toxins, living in a city, et cetera, et cetera. So anything that we can do to help upregulate our body's natural detoxification pathways. So there's a couple of phases to detoxification, but in a nutshell, we want to get the toxin out of the cell, and then we want to excrete it from the body.
Right.
The way we excrete it are peeing, pooping,
and
breathing, and sweating.
Right.
So what infrared saunas do is that they help to, one, release the toxins from the cell, but two, get them out of the body. And then also they have those wonderful repair and anti-inflammation and collagen boosting effects as well. So I would do this religiously 2 times a week. I would go to the infrared place, and then obviously the pandemic came and it closed down. And I really missed it. So got the sauna blanket and have been a convert ever since, because it slides under my bed. It's super easy to clean. And I can lie in that. I can wear my red light mask. The cats are like, what's going on? My husband's so used to it. He's like, hi, what's for dinner? But I love it because it really does make a difference. And it feels like a really big piece of kit, but I think they're like $500 to buy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's an investment, and they're going to last a long time.
Yeah.
You know, I just have to give a shout out to the husbands right now and anybody who's listening. Cause I know when I do my red light, my husband loves it because he calls me Dr. Doom. I guess Dr. Doom was like some sort of a comic book character or something, but he's like, you look exactly like you're wearing your Dr. Doom mask when I do the strap on one.
Yeah.
But God bless them, right? Cause they're like, oh boy,
yeah,
whatever you need, babe.
I warn my husband when I'm wearing it because it freaks him out a little bit.
Yeah.
The cats don't seem to notice. They'll just climb on my chest when I'm wearing it. But they can use them too.
Yeah, no. I mean, he's tried, but it's not his thing. No. But I think he gets a good kick every time I wear it, because you do look a little silly, but hey, whatever it takes, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to thank you so much for being on here. If people want to know more about your services, where can they go?
Best place to come and find me is on Instagram at Jennifer Hanway, or www.jenniferhanway.com. Very easy to find.
And I hope it's okay, because I know I signed up for your newsletter. I love your newsletter. And that's where I first learned about these biohacking devices. Are you okay if I share your links in there? Because people can get...
do. Absolutely. Okay, and I'll send you some updated ones as well, because, we know that stuff gets expensive.
Yeah. So wherever we can save.
Exactly.
Oh, Jen, it's so great to have you on here. I just absolutely adore you. If anybody has questions that they want me to pass on to Jennifer, I'm always happy to do that. You can email me at hello@artbeautypodcast.com. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Art Beauty Podcast. And as always, we will see you next Tuesday, hopefully looking and feeling just a little bit better. Bye.
Bye.